Hi folks, here's a video for you about the social issue book. So if you start in modules and you go all the way to the bottom, well, it's at the bottom right now. It might move, but it's in there somewhere. You will find your social issue book. It has its own module, okay? And the page you want to pay the most attention to is, like everything else, not really a page, it's a discussion. If you have questions, all that stuff, you can stick it in the discussion. This should be a structure that feels pretty familiar to you. Okay, so social issue book. What is the situation here? So you have some choices. I originally, when I had come up with the idea of students in this class reading a book, I had picked Poverty by America. And as I went along and I read more books that really spoke to me, I thought, you know what, we should make it a choice about what interests you that you want to learn about. So at the moment, we have 3 books available to you to pick from. Now, if you know of a book that is not on this list that you are interested in reading, let's talk about it, because I'm happy to expand the list and I'm happy to entertain whatever idea that you have. But I know these 3 books really well, and most people pick these. Okay, so Poverty by America is about poverty, obviously. The Turnaway Study is about the outcomes for women and families who the women intended to have abortions, and for one reason or another, they were not able to have the abortion. Either it was too late in the pregnancy and it was not legal to do so, or they couldn't come up with the money, or whatever it was. The intent was to have an abortion. And the study was quite clever in that it compared that group of people who intended to have an abortion and didn't with folks who did have their abortions, and that data is really interesting. And the main researcher turned it into a book. Really, really good book. There is No Place for Us is not exactly about homelessness. It is really about living on the margins and how easy it is to become unhoused, and the intersection of poverty and homelessness and all sorts of stuff. It's really an excellent book about living on the edges of financial ruin, basically. So anyway, these are all excellent books. And do a little bit of looking around before you commit and buy the book that you choose. Watch some videos and listen to the podcasts that interview the authors. It's worth doing your research to decide which one really speaks to you the most. Okay, so once you've picked your book, what do you do? First of all, you have to use the writing guidelines for this, unless you're going to take your notes in a format that is handwritten in some way. So what does that look like? So we've chosen our book. Oh, you know what? Yes, okay, this is correct. All right, so what you will turn in, okay? So you're going to turn in your chapter notes by chapter, right? Which means that you have to label them. It is extremely difficult for me to grade these if you do not label your chapters. I think that probably makes sense. So your notes can be any format that you want. You can take them by hand. You can type them, all sorts of stuff. You can do all sorts of things. If you are highlighting in the book, taking notes in the book, that's fine. Obviously, we don't need page numbers because I can see them right there. But if you are writing it down separately, you're going to want to make sure that you have the references there. So, the page number for the book that you're reading. I have every version of this book: paperback, hardback, audiobook. I have everything. All of these books. So no problems there. You just want to make sure that you have those reference points. And this example for the handwritten notes says exactly that. These are good notes. They just lack that reference point. The in-book notes. This is an example of the in-book notes. These are great. You know, it doesn't have to go on and on and on. You can absolutely do it like this. Obviously, the biggest issue with this is that it you're taking a billion pictures, right? I actually had somebody who did a video of them flipping through the entire book. And that was fine because they did it in such a way that I could, see what their notes were and all of that stuff. Like, I'm not going through it with a fine-tooth comb. The whole point is that you have read the book and really engaged with your book. I'm not critiquing your notes. I just want to make sure that you have really done the work. Okay. So, couple of typed notes examples. Again, good notes, no page numbers. So, they're good. They would get partial credit. And if they weren't that great, they probably wouldn't even get partial credit, right? So, like, it was very clear to me that these notes aligned really, really well with the chapter. And, she used the writing guidelines, so I knew that they were hers. But without the page numbers, it's really hard for me to verify that. So, the page numbers are partially that type of check as well. So, another set of typewritten notes. This was a different kind of, they approached it differently in terms of their organization, and also there are page numbers on this one. Great. Perusal. So I don't have any examples of perusal. Nobody's used it yet. So it is an option for you. I haven't set it up for this semester. If you want to use perusal, you let me know. I will set it up for you. But I set it up a few semesters in a row. Nobody used it, so it is an option. But you don't have to. You can do another way. Audiobook notes. How do you take those notes? Same way, you write them down, but instead of page numbers, obviously you're going to do timestamps. So that's fine. Like I said, I have the audiobook for all of these, so timestamps are great. Okay, so how are you going to take strong notes? Well, here's some pointers here, but the bottom line is for these, you do not have to spend your time analyzing what you're reading. Okay, so when you're taking your notes for the patient, you are going to do that because you're going to be quizzed on the content of that book, and you're going to be asked to kind of make relationships between what you read in that book and other things in the class. So you really want to have analytical notes for that book. For your social issue book, you don't have to do that. You really all you have to do is the bullet points that I showed you in the examples, but really taking strong notes in this context is really about focus and not getting distracted by the world around you. And I as somebody who lives with ADHD, I do understand how hard it is to do that. So, if you're struggling with the amount of focus that it takes to do what I'm asking you to do, by all means reach out. I have lived this way my entire life, and I have lots and lots and lots of suggestions for you. So, no worries there. I do understand that it's difficult, but there's some tips and tricks to it. Okay. Prioritizing your time. Oof. It's a whole book, right? And you have 2 of them that you need to read in this semester. So you have to plan your time pretty carefully. You're going to be submitting the first 2 chapters of your book, regardless of which book it is, at midterm. And then all of the rest of the chapters are going to be submitted for final. So how are you going to handle that? So most people, if I were in your shoes, I would actually turn in those first 2 chapters early. you will have access to the submission page for your chapters, and I would read them as quickly as possible, turn them in as quickly as possible, and I will happily take a look at them, give you feedback so that you can move on, do chapters 3 through whatever. So my the reason why I do it this way, that it's part of your grade for your midterm and your final, is to kind of take the books out of the assignment buckets, you know. So the and also it's very clear deadlines in your head. Right. So anyway, you do have lots and lots of time to work on these, but you do not want to wait until the last minute. It is impossible to read an entire book in a day or two when you're also in the middle of finals and you have a million other things, and you must pace yourself. You must make a plan. If you need help doing that, let me know, and I'm happy to help you make a plan. But you know, if don't leave it till the last minute, is my advice. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions. You can also obviously comment in that discussion. And yeah, see you around. Thanks.